Hello and welcome. So this is a different setup. It's nice to be back. There's a lot that's happened in the last few months. Perhaps I'll give you guys an update on what's been going on in my life and my YouTube life, particularly for the last few months. But in this video today, I'm bringing you a new review. So this monitor, the reason I'm reviewing this monitor and I got this monitor today is, as you can see here on my desk, I've got a Samsung Odyssey G8. This is a 4K 240 Hz HDR 1000 mini LED monitor I got last year. And since I was doing a lot of gaming and a lot of gameplay and gameplay streaming, and I wanted to stream in HDR, I had felt that I needed an HDR display to be able to see what I was streaming and what was the difference between SDR and HDR, my first HDR monitor, if you will. That said, 32 inches is quite large. It takes up all of the room on my desk, and oftentimes during the day when I'm working, I don't need something this large. Rather, what I need is more resolution, and this fit the bill nicely. So KTC provides a 24-inch 2K, that's Quad HD 2560 by 1440p resolution, 100 Hz DCI P3 compliant. So it is my hope that I can replace this behemoth with something like this, mount it to the desk there at the edge of the desk, and I'll be able to reclaim some much needed desk real estate, but also to be able to use this not only for work, but also for gaming purposes. 100 Hertz is plenty more than anything that I'm going to need. I'm not competitive. I'm at best a casual gamer. And these days with YouTube videos, I have much less time actually to game. So let's jump in, get this KTC unboxed and see what it has to offer. I've cut this here. Let's unwrap this guy. We'll pull the styrofoam out. What has fallen out of the box here. So here we've got a stand, plastic, nothing really much to rave about this here, but should do the job. We've got a universal power adapter, so at least this will work across the world. And we've got here, 3 amps max. It's a typical 12-volt power adapter, so nothing that's going to be outworldly from there. We do get some cabling here. Looks like a standard HDMI cable. It's 1.5 meters. I'm assuming this is just a standard HDMI 2.0 B cable. Thank you for bundling that in. Remove this foam cover. The monitor is packaged nicely. I don't think there's going to be issues during transport, so hopefully getting damaged during transport or issues like that should not be a problem. Now we'll try to remove this without actually touching the screen to avoid getting fingerprints all over it. So first things I must say is it's actually quite nice and light. It's thin. The borders are very, very thin, although I do see that the screen is a little bit recessed. DC in jack here, display port, HDMI, USB for service, it says, so probably firmware upgrades. And then just a headphone pass-through jack. There are no speakers built into this monitor as far as I know. All right, so now that we've got this device powered on, it boots up to a nice KTC screen here. Let's spin this around and show you guys the actual joystick. So this here is the joystick toggle. It's a press on and off for power, and then you would toggle it around for the menu. Yeah, there's no other buttons on any other surface of this monitor. It is base mount compatible, so at least that's one positive in going for it. Let's get the HDMI plugged into our display here. So you do see a nice LED light here when it's in power savings mode. That's a nice indicator. And voila, we have immediately screen mirroring. Now it looks like I might be missing the stand, or there should be a piece here that slides into this to become the actual stand. So also included in the box is this little pivot arm, which slides onto this and onto the back of the monitor to hold it upright. So let's get this plugged in. No screws, just slide in and click. All right, we'll lay this on its face. And this guy just slides in. There we go. We'll go to extend these displays and Windows display settings. And voila, we'll keep the settings there. Let's identify these. This is monitor number 2. We'll adjust the positioning of these so we can mouse over nicely. And if we scroll down here, we bring this over so you guys can see. So at 1440p, the resolution is quite sharp. I cannot actually, well, I can kind of see the subpixels if I'm this close to the screen. But, at normal viewing distance, which is arm's length, I don't think I'm going to be seeing anything here. I do want to make sure that this is represented and recognized as 100 Hertz. Perfect. Fantastic. And there it is. We're at 100 Hertz. Yes, please keep these changes. And we'll take a quick peek at the on-screen display for this KTC monitor. We can see here there's a display, color, a gaming setup, advanced settings, input, and a system set menu here. And as we go through the different options here, we love to see that it's displayed at the top what settings are currently active, particularly what we want to know: the resolution, the refresh rate of the monitor, whether or not HDR is enabled, and whether or not FreeSync and G-Sync are active or inactive. Once we toggle G-Sync though, or sorry, excuse me, FreeSync though, it will actually flicker and come back to the menu. There's also a native mode, plus there's also an sRGB mode. If you prefer something just tuned where you set it and forget it, sRGB will give you all of the coverage that you need for all of your gaming needs. If you want to tune, you have all of these different options here, or if you have a professional color calibration tool, you can certainly go through all of these settings and tweak to your heart's content to get it perfect or as accurate as possible gamma and color settings here. There's also overdrive. However, I like to leave this on because it mostly causes over ghosting effects with displays, so you can choose to turn that on. HDR here also left as off because HDR, I believe, at 400 nits or 350 nits, not even 400, is not actually really any discernible from SDR content. Not sure what is DDC and CI here, but you have quite a few different options. Additionally, if you go to input, there's two main options here for video display, and of course through the system setup here you can go through and configure audio hotkeys for particular functions that you use quite often. There's a USB upgrade option using this applied USB service port, and you can reset to the original monitor settings. And we'll take a quick look here at the subpixel structure of the IPS panel on this KTC H24T27 monitor. Now, this is a discontinued model, so there wasn't an actual product page available for this particular device. But as said here, as I'm zooming in, you can see that there's some scan lines. That's due to the 60 hertz capture rate of the actual camera versus the 100 hertz at which the display is rendering. So it's not the actual display itself. I can assure you, as we can zoom in here, we can see the subpixel structure, but at a typical viewing distance, which is generally arm's length, you'll see that the text is quite sharp and everything looks nice and detailed. You won't see any fuzzy edges around text or any kind of dithering or even purple fringing at that viewing distance. So overall, a good display. Running here and testing the UFO ghosting test to see how is the performance for the stutter and also for the VSync effect, which is run by a FreeSync powered panel here. We're seeing that for whatever reason it's not giving us a stable frame rate here and a VSync lock. I tested this in multiple browsers, including Microsoft Edge. I tested in Brave, which is also a Chromium based browser, same as Google Chrome here. And finally, even with Google Chrome, I was not able to get a stable and consistent VSync experience here from this particular monitor. So that's something to keep note if you're very susceptible to this. Taking a quick peek at the backlight bleed on this monitor, it is certainly present in the bottom right and left corners. However, nothing too drastic. I don't think anyone's going to be complaining. And during typical use in a office environment, you won't really notice it when the display is fully lit up and filled up with content. As we adjust the brightness here, we see that the 350 nits, that's the nominal brightness for this monitor, is actually quite adequate. With the exception of being in direct sunlight, most indoor environments will not prove any sort of a challenge whatsoever. And with content or gameplay or movie watching experience, is actually fairly enjoyable for the value proposition that this monitor brings overall. So we'll do one more test here. We'll set back to defaults to make sure we're not capturing in anything that we don't want. We'll go to ultra mode. We'll change this over to DLSS. We'll leave it on auto and we'll leave frame generation turned on. We don't want AMD-FSR frame generation. We want DLSS, please. And we'll hit apply. So custom resolution, and we'll run the benchmark. All right, so a much better performance here. We can already see that the frame rate is absolutely fantastic. We've jumped up to now 95 FPS using the ultra mode with DLSS frame generation turned on and DLSS set to auto. So that means it will decide when it's going to focus more on quality versus on performance. There is some small minor artifacting that you may notice in certain areas, especially if you set DLSS to auto. Setting it to, see, now we're approaching the frame rate of this display natively at 100 hertz, which means it's fantastic. They can actually saturate the frame rates of this display with just a 4070. And keep in mind that as I'm running this, I'm also capturing using OBS and a 4K 60 FPS external source. You can see here. So this is the game actually being captured from an external source. So you can see the monitor. Very impressive performance for this monitor. It isn't it's a little bit tricky here to tell because I don't have a higher power GPU that could fully saturate this display, so we could try VSync lock to 100 FPS and to see whether or not we'd get a much smoother frame rate. But again, I think we'll run one last test here, which is to manually adjust these settings. I like to dial in my own particular settings. So I'd like to put this on ultra mode, switch this over to DLSS. And instead of auto, I like to go to quality mode just to get a little bit more visual fidelity and leave DLSS frame generation turned on. We'll hit apply here, run this benchmark, and okay, yeah, so there is a noticeable jump up in visual fidelity. Of course, if you've played this game quite a lot, you will be able to discern, and certainly I can discern having played this game quite a bit. If we look here, we're still in the high 70s, even approaching 80 or 80 plus in terms of FPS. So very good performance overall. There is some odd frame stuttering. I don't know if it's due to frame times and that GPU being oversaturated with both the video capture and also the gameplay here. We'll run one test without actually capturing. I'll just have to, orally give you my word for that since I don't have the ability to capture. Well, I suppose I could capture onto the camera itself and give you guys the results there to say, hey, this is how it captures if you're not using, or if you're driving it with just a 4070 and you're not doing video capture onto the same laptop itself. So we'll do that one test just to make sure that it isn't the 4070 that's limiting the monitor and that the performance is quite good.
All right, let's wrap up this review of the KTC H24T27. Fantastic display. That's my one sentence answer. However, let me explain. So the pros, let's talk about the positives first. So this is a 2K 24-inch 100 hertz FreeSync and G-Sync enabled display. It's got 350 nits of brightness, 100% sRGB coverage, HDMI port and display port, plus audio pass-through for your headphones for a little bit of convenience. It's got pre-drilled hold on the back for a VESA 100 by 100 mount, and that pretty much gives you everything that you need to know. The best part of this display is the price point, only $180 at the time of purchase, and review from Amazon in Canada. I have seen comments online and people mentioning that this does occasionally drop to around $100 in the US. Absolutely fantastic. First of all, this is a little bit of a unicorn in terms of combination of screen size, resolution, and refresh rate. You don't really have other displays like this. Most displays at 2K resolutions are either 27 inch, 28, or even 32 inches. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more compact, more pixel dense, and you have a smaller office space, I think this is going to be a fantastic fit. That said, though, there is a few cons. There was a little bit of IPS bleed. I don't think anything unusual for this price point and a budget offering. The 100% sRGB does leave a little bit more to be desired. 100% DCI-P3 is becoming more and more prevalent. Would have been nice if you're a mixed content creator and you have other workflows as well. Beyond that, I think and the stand here is my other complaint. It's quite wobbly. It doesn't have any height adjustment, only tilt back and forth a few degrees, and certainly there's no pivot in this monitor at this price point. So that said, if you're looking for a basic display that can kind of do it all, don't have a lot of spend, and you're looking at a budget gaming, a casual gaming, and an office work space / productivity display, I think this KTC fits the bill. I was quite hesitant, a little bit reluctant to get one of these Chinese displays. I know they've become more and more popular and prevalent on eBay and Amazon, but I wanted to get it in my hands and try this specific resolution. I was so pleasantly pleased with this that I ended up picking another one for two, so I've got two side by side now on monitor arms. Highly recommended, and it's an overall great workspace experience. So that's all I have to say about this KTC. Let me know what you think. What do you think about these much cheaper Chinese competitors and displays that are making their way into the marketplace? Certainly much more affordable than what you're going to buy from Amazon or Best Buy or perhaps even Micro Center. Unless you're looking for something larger, then of course 1440p and 2K 27-inch displays are much more prevalent. So that said, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think of this resolution, this screen size, and overall these Chinese monitors. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and help spread this video so we can help grow this community. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.